and happy to help. And of course, we encourage everyone to relax, connect, and most importantly, enjoy this afternoon's talk. Uh, just a recap of the previous Ambag lecture series. In celebration of our 160th anniversary, the Manila Observatory is excited to host inspiring lectures on science, service, and society. Ambag, short for Agha, Ambag, short for Agham sa Banig, originated as an internal initiative where research scientists and staff engage in meaningful discussions on various topics of interest within the AMO community. Now, as part of our celebrations, we are opening the Ambag to the public, inviting everyone to join us in the journey of knowledge and exploration. Last April 25, we started the lecture series with the first session featuring ENP Alex Zar R. Masiglat, an environmental planner and program manager from the Philippine Disaster Resilience Foundation, or PDRF, where he discussed the crucial role of the private sectors in building climate resilience. Today, we are having the second session of our anniversary lecture series. To formally start our program, may we call on Dr. Faye Abigail Cruz, Laboratory Head of the Regional Climate Systems Lab, to give her opening remarks and introduce our speaker for today's Ambag session.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us in our this afternoon's Ambag lecture series. In these talks, we are able to highlight and to listen to inspiring stories in bringing science to society. As scientists, myself included, we tend to be too focused sometimes in our work. You know, we have our computer models, our numbers, but then we are faced with the challenge often in bringing this science to the wider community, in communicating these findings to the general public, which I think is unfortunate because we also miss out in learning from the community as well. So when I think of climate communication and engagement, I think of the OML Center. The OML Center comes to mind because they've done a lot of good work in this space. And I've had the privilege of being part of the discussions for the ating Kwentong Klima series. The center has also been instrumental in coordinating and supporting the monumental task that is the Philippine Climate Change Assessment Reports, which is the Philippine version of the IPCC assessment reports. So we are very thankful and excited to have with us here today Ms. Cato Sarmiento, who will be sharing with us their work and the stories that they have collected over the years at the OML Center. It is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker this afternoon. Ms. Cato Sarmiento is the Partnerships Manager at the Oscar M. Lopez Center for Climate Change Adaptation and Disaster Risk Management Foundation, where she engages with experts, advocates, and collaborators to magnify the reach and impact of science-based climate communications and actionable knowledge. The Oscar M. Lopez Center is a nonprofit organization born out of a private sector initiative to enhance support for research and innovative solutions towards climate change adaptation and disaster risk management. It is rooted in the principle that science must play a role in building resilience of communities through actionable knowledge. Founded in 2012, the OML Center was established in response to the glaring research gap that was alarmingly disproportionate to the climate-related risks and vulnerabilities of the Philippines. And so without further delay, please join me in welcoming Ms. Cato Sarmiento.
Magandang hapon sa lahat. It's not showing up. You'd think we'd gotten used to all of the technology by now, no? Ako, paano tayo magsisine? Sisine pa naman tayo today. Sige. Sige, habang we're trying to figure it out. Ayan. There. Okay. Parang sa akin ba yan? Sa inyo ata siya. Sa inyo? Nasa inyo or sa akin? That is weird. Wala yung sa akin. Okay. Sige. There is something going on. Nawala naman yung control sa aking laptop. Okay, let me... Nasa akin nga. Wait lang. Okay. Naka-extend siya pero hindi siya gumagalaw. Let me reopen. It's not working on my end. Hindi lumalabas yung presenter view. Nababalat, bless natin kanina. Hmm? I-ano ko dapat siya eh. Yung script ko kasi. Okay. Yep. Okay. Yeah, let me try one last time. Ay, finally. After. Pinagpawisan ako ng husto ah. Technology. Okay. Sorry for everyone on Facebook and uh, here. Uh, okay. After everything, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Salamat sa inyong pangingimbita sa Oscar M. Lopez Center para lumahok sa inyong selebrasyon. Manila Observatory's work has had such a significant role in the climate change space in the Philippines. And for a very minute fraction of those years, we have been fortunate to work with and alongside MO. Ako po si Kato Sarmiento. Bukod sa hindi po ako IT technician, hindi rin po ako climate scientist. I find myself before you working in the climate change space because I find purpose in supporting people and organizations with stories, visions, and missions greater than my own. And today, I get to share with you why Oscar M. Lopez Center has some stories to tell. The usual MO crowd would know that our work is primarily on building up the available climate change research in the Philippines in collaboration with the scientific and academic communities, PAG-ASA, the Climate Change Commission, among other technical groups. We were founded by our namesake in 2012, a year before Typhoon Yolanda, because OML realized that if big companies like theirs were already struggling to recover issues and deforestation, but hindi pa talaga usapin ang climate change. So for our first half decade as a center, our focus was to bridge that gap, dugsong, and grow the climate research in and on the Philippines. MO was actually one of our first grantees. Doc Celine Vicente was part of the team to conduct the RSGIS-based integrated analysis on risks to climate change and disasters in Iloilo City, Davao City, and Davao Oriental. 13 years on, supporting climate research work is still at the core of what we do. But we got to a point where the number of research and researchers are growing, the science is being taken seriously, but why aren't we seeing action on the ground? And so we have been moving towards also developing programs and partnerships that help bridge knowledge to action. For a small team, tinanong ni Doc Faye kanina, ilan ba kami sa center? There are less than 15 of us in the center at the moment, 1-5, even fewer in the earlier years. This was a very daunting task. It meant pushing ourselves to find ways to ensure that usable and actionable knowledge could reach groups that help build resilient communities. That's why I use the term dugsong. Doc Faye was asking what it means. It's a variant of the word dugtong, not just to connect or join, to bridge. But the difference between dugtong and dugsong, there is an urgency in dugsong, an intentionality to it. And I hope that's what we have been trying to do at the OML Center. So part of that transition included, of course, reviewing and reconfiguring the work that we were already doing with academics and policymakers. Nabanggit ni Doc Faye, the Philippine Climate Change Assessment Report Cycle 2. We're still in the process of completing it, but Working Group 1 on the physical science basis was already released last year. A number of the authors, including coordinating lead authors Father Jet Villarin and Dr. Rosa Perez, are from MO. In recent years, we have also been working with deaf advocates and hearing champions to improve the climate resilience of the deaf and help influence inclusive governance and disaster risk reduction. We have been developing also online decision support tools, anchored initially from the first Philippine Climate Change Assessment Report, to help guide local planners in ensuring that local climate change action plans are evidence-based and that they have a reference for peer-reviewed and vetted projects, plans, and activities. We've worked with other nonprofits in trying to deepen the understanding of how climate change intersects and impacts sectors. Doc Faye made reference to the Ang Ating Kwentong Klima project with Asia Society Philippines. Doc Lau Hamero also participated in an episode of that. We have opened up our work also to help basic education teachers, parents, youth, and their communities better understand their climate risks and options for action. Among others, co-producing a workbook for grades 7 to 10 with Adarna House and chapter partners, and developing quick reference climate profiles for each region with PAG-ASA. But when we talk about our experience in climate storytelling, we have to talk about mga kwento ng klima. Launched in 2019, Mga Kwento ng Klima was envisioned to tell the story of climate change from the Filipino experience. Even at that time, 2019, if you ask people about images of climate change, regular Filipinos, you would get polar bears and ice caps. While these are part of global climate change, we needed visuals and stories that are familiar to Filipinos that can help them make sense of the international data and news reports of what happens in the yearly disasters and why there is more to resilience than glorified post disaster recovery stories. It was definitely a challenging task, and we are glad that ABS-CBN DocuCentral was willing to take on the challenge with us. As a center that values co-production and user-centeredness, we actually required ABS-CBN DocuCentral's crew to participate in multi-session workshops with scientists, technical experts, government agencies, civil society representatives, and advocates, among other interested stakeholders. We believe that this process allowed the writers and producers to have a strong sense of how they can combine data and stories in a compelling manner. The 60-minute documentary has 5 parts. Part 1 explains climate change and its impacts and introduces the story of Super Typhoon Yolanda survivor Joanna Sustento. Part 2 focuses on the challenges that vulnerable communities face in managing rising waters due to sea level rise, extreme rainfall, and floods, among others. Typhoon Ondoy survivors Rafael Salamat of Bulacan and Danita Pascual of Marikina recount their experiences and share the lessons they learned. Part 3 focuses on the effects of the changing climate on agriculture and food security. Farmers from Mindanao and Bicol share insights on the economic changes and challenges cooperatives are experiencing due to prolonged drought, as well as adjustment made to adapt to the impacts of the changing climate. Part 4 features community efforts in Romblon in developing renewable energy systems and rainwater harvesting, which have helped the province adapt to the changing climate. And the last part of the documentary weaves climate action, adaptation, resilience, and human rights, including climate emergency protests held in Metro Manila, spearheaded by the youth, and examples of adaptation solutions. We went through several script reviews, and we've had to cut out a lot of stories. But we ended up with what we think is a robust, compelling, and informative documentary. And yet, we know that the 60 minutes do not even scratch the surface of the local realities, challenges, and resilience in many other parts of the country. The documentary was actually just the start of the center's project, in which we look at science, arts, and culture as a means of promoting resilience. We know the Balangay to be a vessel of trade and inter-island travel in ancient Southeast. In Philippine culture and language, the Balangay is the origin of the word barangay, which means community, and which, in modern usage, refers to the smallest administrative division in the country. It also serves as a unifying symbol of solidarity, cooperation, and determination. The Palangay Project not only aims to bring the Philippine climate story closer to where the impacts of climate change is most felt, but we believe that weaving climate stories into the Filipino consciousness contributes towards the building of a climate resilient nation. The original concept had more components, but due to the pandemic and its impacts on our society, we have primarily been working on three. First, the generation of climate stories. Second, developing skills and capacities. And third, activating partnerships for community-based initiatives. We began our foray into climate storytelling with the Klima Film Festival in partnership with the Climate Change Commission in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic. The competition was opened initially to student filmmakers. It was our way of trying to make something productive out of a challenging time in our history. In 2022, the center continued the mobile short film making competition on our own through the Mga Kwento ng Klima short films and opened it up to amateur, professional, independent filmmakers from all over the country. Each film has to be 5 minutes long, captured primarily using mobile phones. Why? Alam nyo naman yung attention span most of the people have these days. So 5 minutes should be long enough. Why mobile phones? We want it to be as accessible as possible to as many people in the country. You don't need fancy equipment to start creating your stories. Currently, we have a total of 26 climate short films from the MKK Short Films in 2022 to 2024. I will clarify one thing. All of the short films are fictional. The decision was intentional. If you do documentaries, there's a longer process of approvals, and sometimes there's a limitation to what you portray. Now, if you allow people to use their imagination, to think about how climate impacts them, it could still be rooted primarily in the truth, in their realities. And we actually try to make sure of that. Part of our Mga Kwento ng Klima competition actually requires participants to undergo what we call the Climate Film Labs. This is a series of synchronous and asynchronous lectures and workshops on climate science, storytelling, mobile filmmaking, and guerrilla production, among others. Each team is also paired with an appropriate science and film mentor to help guide them through the script writing and production process. They start with a pitch, which they discuss with their mentors. And through the discussions, they're able to strengthen the scientific backbone of their stories and even figure out ways of how to depict, for example, flooding when you have very limited budget. This year, we actually held off the competition to begin bringing our stories to the regions. My colleagues are actually in Bacolod today with a program right now to screen some of our films and conduct learning sessions with students and other members of the Bacolod community. Aside from Bacolod, we are looking at bringing the films to other parts of the country this year. Aside from these roadshows, through the years, we have received and accepted film screening requests from various groups, including teachers who would like to use some of the films to augment their teachings in environmental science, architecture, or even creative writing classes. Aside from the seed grants, cash prizes, and screening support that participating filmmakers receive from the center, we also support the public availability of these films. What will these stories become? Sayang if we don't put them out there and try to make them as accessible as possible to the public. So recently, we partnered with the Film Development Council of the Philippines to make our films available through their OneFlix app. The 2022 and 2023 MKK short films are already available on the app, with 2024 short films to be made available by November. On top of the seed grants, as I mentioned, we also do a formal screening at the end of the competition and award cash prizes to the top 3 films, as well as give special awards. To give you a better idea of what that looks like, let me play. This is from our 2023 competition, but it takes you through the entire process. But I would like to still give you some time to watch some of the films that we have. But I just like to highlight some of my observations and learnings in the past 5 years of doing this project. Storytelling, especially through film, lends itself to communicating the impacts of climate change because both embrace complexity. Storytelling, to a certain extent, even more so when trying to guide audiences through the emotional roller coaster of understanding the impacts, or even giving them the idea that there is a way out. In each lecture or workshop where we've shown the films have elicited more interest in knowledge and taking action, more than, unfortunately, Father Jet showing them data and graphs. The films are able to give people a sense of agency, perhaps because they see characters or stories on screen already play a version of their challenges out. When we started with the KFF in 2020, admittedly, most of the films were more about general environmental issues than climate change. But year on year, the pitches we have received have become richer and more complex. Last year, there were many more stories that intersected with Philippine mythology and way of life than ever before. We have also seen returning filmmakers submit each year, and filmmakers have been active in participating in our film screenings, taking part in talkback sessions, and conducting mini lectures in their schools or communities. We turn them into advocates. During Climate Film Labs, it's not just the filmmakers who benefit from the mentors. We have also had mentors come back to us with enriched perspectives on how the science may be perceived or creatively portrayed. We have also found that film is a good medium to access climate communication for the deaf. We have been improving our standards for film outputs, such as making sure that we have good closed captioning or subtitling, and how we conduct screenings have changed so that they are more deaf friendly, and to make the films and experience of watching the films even more accessible and inclusive. Last year, aside from our deaf partners, we even had a blind audience member taking part. I can go on and on about the virtues of using film to communicate climate, but I think that would be better communicated by showing you a sampling of our films later on. I've selected these three films for you as I think they illustrate interesting ways of telling climate stories through film. The first, Fish Be With You by LJ Del Doc's Underwater Playground, is from our 2023 competition. This film received the Audience Choice Award and Special Jury Award for Climate Lens for that year. The second, Quick Questions with the Queen by Drexler Haramel and Dexter De Jesus Siete Cinco Creatives won third place and best play in last year's competition. Like LJ, Drex and Dex have joined the competition at least twice. The last, One Init by Faith Aragon's Bulalakaw Productions, is also from the 2023 competition. It received the Special Jury Award for Cinematic Lens. Inasmuch as tackling climate change is not the sole domain of scientists and researchers, bridging knowledge to action requires everyone in their own roles, with their own strengths and skills, in this case, filmmaking, looking at real life issues and challenges from different perspectives, collaborating together to ultimately help equip key actors with skills and information for evidence-based decision making. Filipino communities whose members have a sense of urgency, agency, in terms of how they can participate in building resilience. The gaps that are many. Our communities are over 7,000 islands, will need as many hands and minds working together to truly become climate resilient. And that ends my formal lecture. Uh, I will show you the films in a little bit. We will just pause the live stream.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kato, for sharing the OML Center's origin and mission, as well as for letting us view some of the films showing the stories of climate, as well as the urgency that goes along with it, that is Dugsong. So let us give a warm of applause for Ms. Kato for her presentation. So let us open the floor now for questions. Um, those who are joining on Facebook Live, you may type in your questions on the comment section. So let us invite Ms. Kato and Doc Faye. Yes, po. So yan. Are there questions po for Ms. Kato? Those are...
Don't be shy. See, I'll start off. So thank you. Ay, sino? No, he will. He will help. So thank you very much for sharing with us the work of, at OML and the films. It's actually very nice. You know, I enjoyed, especially the first one, with the sense of with a touch of humor. Pero yun na nga, it's a sad thing. So was there really a conscious choice for doing film or visual media versus other ways, other means, um, in communicating climate at the center, or would you have plans of doing other formats at the center?
Um, there was an intentionality in the sense of when we were doing climate monitoring, most of what we receive in terms of news and images are really from the global north. Even with social media, all of the images that we see is from the global north. It doesn't quite capture the experiences that Filipinos have of climate change. So that's when we started with the documentary. But from the documentary and the reactions to the documentary, we realized that there is space for more climate stories to be told. Even if you go on major streaming platforms, there aren't a lot of climate films that would be somewhat enjoyable to watch or would compel the youth um, to learn more about climate change. So yes, there was an intentionality there of starting off with films. Uh, in one way, it can be disarming if you start off with students showing them graphs. Sometimes there's an immediacy of, oh, this is too hard, this is science. But when you show the implications of the science in terms of something that they can relate to in real life, there's more openness to learn more about it or to appreciate what is happening in terms of climate change and impacts. In terms of other formats, we are not quite there yet. We actually, I mentioned that the Balangay project had more components. One of the components included working with media and communicators for more climate stories. Unfortunately, it's something that we have had to park because we don't exactly have a very good media environment at the moment. It's something that we may have to rethink should we relaunch it. Sige, dugtong ko na lang. Hindi siya it's not quite the same format. But our climate change workbook for grade 7 to 10, Klima Alam, that's also a dugsong. Uh, we experience, I don't know if it's the same for you, way too many teachers who didn't think that climate change was the scope of their subjects, including science teachers. So we had to try and find a way to distill what are the most essential things that Filipino youth need to know about climate change in the Philippines and find creative ways of how to teach climate change. When you teach climate change, it's actually not just a science topic. It can be a math topic. Have them compute like carbon footprint of organic vegetables that come from abroad and organic vegetables that come from their community, for example. There are many ways to teach climate change in a way that's relatable to students and can encompass different subjects, but not a lot of teachers know how to do it. That's why Klima Alam came about.
Yes, Dr. Lee.
When you conduct the film festivals, do you specify particular themes? Ah, when you when you conduct the film festivals and you advertise for entries, um, do you select themes or how do you select themes?
Okay, so when we the Klima Film Festival with the Climate Change Commission, we had themes like adapting to a sustainable future. Um, when we started with mga kwento ng klima, we decided to forego the themes. Part of it is if we wanted to surface climate stories, we also wanted to know what people thought and understood about climate stories from their initial pitches. For each year, I think from 2022 to 2024, we receive about an average of 40 to 50 pitches from all over the country. And the themes really vary. But year on year, we've also, I think this is something that we will have to study later on. But year on year, there seems to be also a change in the general direction of the themes that maybe it's also brought about by what's happening in society. Like if I remember correctly, in 2023, we had a lot of story pitches that related to the impact of climate on mental health, especially of students. Last year, as I mentioned during my talk, we actually had a lot of story pitches that intersected climate change, local realities, and mythology. So the top film last year, Katao, is a climate future story. If I remember correctly, they're a group based out of Cebu, and it tells of a climate future where um, a mother had to decide to operate on his son so that he can breathe underwater. So we had that. We also had a story from last year um, about a manananggal who's trying to be uh, ethical and not eat people, but because of food insecurity, is having a difficult time of trying to be ethical about being manananggal. So we intentionally did that for mga kwento ng klima because we wanted to see and also gather from the different regions what their ways.
Hello po. Ang question ko po, kani-kanino nyo na po na papakita since parang available po siya sa lahat, pero na-try nyo na po ba siyang ipakita sa mga community po mismo and how they reacted when they saw it po?
The team now that's in Bacolod, this is actually our first year where we're really running a program that is anchored on the film screenings. And what we're doing is we change the selection of the films depending on where the filmmakers are, but also what are the climate risks that are more familiar for that area. But in previous years, we have accepted film screenings from various groups, like mga environmental fairs with Austrian Embassy. And these have been received pretty well. But what we try to do at minimum with the film screenings is to have a talkback session with the filmmakers so that the audience can interact with the filmmakers. Um, and what we found, as I mentioned, even our filmmakers are becoming climate advocates. We don't even have to sometimes come in and try and explain what climate is because they can walk the talk and explain their vision and why they did this film. So that has been very rewarding. Um, we are looking at additional screenings in hopefully Cebu, Davao, and another here in Metro Manila this year. There will be showings, different from screenings because they're standalone showings in Iloilo and Nabunturan. We also show some of the films with some of our learning sessions. So, for example, we conduct a climate change module with the Don Bosco School of Theology in their Laudato Si certified environmental training program. And part of doing that basic climate change awareness, understanding risk and action, we intersperse the lectures with the films. And it really helps spur discussion and understanding so much further than just doing a straightforward lecture.
Thank you po.
Hello po, ayun po. Sobrang gusto ko po na yung collaboration po ng arts and science. So, really grateful for this project po. Yung mga tanong ko po medyo on the production side.
I will try my best.
Parang ano po, how do you encourage participants? Parang sino po ba yung target participants nyo for these projects? And then how do you reach wider audience, especially those who are most vulnerable to climate change? And lastly, sorry po marami, paano po yung production costs nung mga sumasali? Like, meron din po ba kayong parang binibigay? Sorry, meron pa po palang isa. Meron po kayong guidance po ba sa pre- and post-production po ng mga films na sumasali po? Yun po.
Parang sasali ka next year.
Yun po talaga yung target. Joke po.
I will check, pero I will check, but I don't remember an Ateneo submission. Kasi we also have a lot of submissions that come from student film organizations, PLM, from Benilde, and they submit as an organization and do the productions. But going back to your question, so starting with the documentary, we partnered talaga with filmmakers as consultants so that they're able to also reach out to their network. But at least in terms of reach, the most fruitful collaboration we've had is with the Film Development Council of the Philippines and the NCCA. If they post it on their on their social media, it reaches nearly everywhere. And I think part of that is both institutions provide grants. So a lot of filmmakers really look at their social media. So last year, we got our first submission from BARM. So we have a film that's made by BARM filmmakers already. And we're seeing the reach of the submissions grow more and more year on year. Your second question was?
Wider audience po.
Okay, so that's also the same. I told you we're a group of 15. So the way we try and approach our work is we try to look for communities of practitioners who can help do the reach for us. They know the people more, they know the communities more than us, and we know that, yun, again, dugsong. We do our part, they do our part, and it reaches the communities we need to reach. This year with the roadshow, this was actually, honestly, a little delayed because of the pandemic. But we're hoping that in year on year, we'll start doing more road shows, whether as OML Center or with our partners in the regions. The third,
Production cost.
okay, production costs. Okay, so when we started out, I think with Klima Film Festival, it's just cash prizes. So you go through the process, you have a cash prize, but if you're not top, you don't really get anything. But when we were seriously looking at
the project and the state of our current film industry, we knew that if we wanted more participation, and we have a lot of brilliant creative storytellers in the country, we needed to try and support them. So what we do is provide a seed grant for the top 15 pitches. This is to start them off on their production. Once they complete the film, they receive another grant. And then we have cash prizes. Last year, top film received 100,000. So hindi na siya masama. So later on, if we're able to get more partners to join us, we're hoping to also grow the pot for our filmmakers. Um, and then the last, pre and post production. Yes, when we do our call for submissions, we do set out a list of expected outputs that you should be able to meet. So I mentioned that um, we particularly focused on mobile filmmaking so that it's accessible to all. But we do set a minimum standard in terms of the output of the videos. And so far, we've had very little challenges, or I mean, our filmmakers have had very little challenges in terms of meeting the requirements. Last 2023, we tried doing a partnership with a phone company to try and level the playing ground, but the logistics could be very, very challenging. So in 2024, we decided to roll it back and have the filmmakers use whatever mobile phones they have as long as it meets requirements. A lot of the mobile phones now are able to meet those requirements naman.
Thank you po.
And in addition, those who complete their films and make it to the top, we actually take care of converting the films to DCP format for cinema screening.
Thank you po.
Are there any more questions for Ms. Kato? I have a question po. um, may pinakita po kasi kayong tatlong films. So, sa isang sulyap, entertaining yung tatlong film. But as the film goes, habang patapos yung film, it becomes thought-provoking and it makes you think nga. So, ang tanong ko po, Ms. Kato, is there a film na na-release nyo na, aside from these three films, na-consider nyo as controversial film which raised discussion or like magkakaibang opinions or feedback na na-release nyo?
I can honestly say that I don't recall anything that has been controversial, especially in terms of content. Maybe like, especially when final judging, our final judges are a mix of climate scientists and film experts. So lagi yang may debate in terms of production, how rooted in the science or hindi, before we get to the top three. But in terms of each film, I don't recall any being controversial. There is one film, though, it wasn't controversial on our end, but it was controversial in terms of their production. This was the winner of this was a top film for our 2023 short films competition. This is the one that featured Mr. Boji Pascua, Old Times. So that film is about a grandfather and his grandchild reminiscing in their old area in Bulacan. So they told us that they originally wanted to shoot in an area of Bulacan that is having some construction and infrastructure developments at the moment, but they were met with a lot of resistance by the LGU because you would need approval. So they had to change their production and reshoot. So the challenges that we've heard from filmmakers have primarily been in terms of how they could produce their films. But in terms of the actual film showing, and how people react to the films. I don't think we've had a contrary reaction so far. Sana never.
Thank you po, Miss Kat.
Oh.
Yeah, so, yes, Father Jet.
Kato, salamat ah. Kasi kwento ng klima. So, ang nagtataka lang ako, may kwento ba na hindi sine? Kwento, short story. Naghanap kasi kami ng mga halimbawa reading materials. Eh. When you want to teach reading, no, pagbabasa sa in English and in the dialect, no, kung pwede. Maganda sana kung meron din yung medium na yon. Meron ba?
Wala pa, Father Jet, pero may kilala akong lumapit sa akin asking if the center would be interested in supporting or giving a grant to a collection of futuristic climate sci-fi. Anthology, yes. Wala pa yun sa aming hinagap. But if you're willing to take a look at it, I can refer them to you. But yes, we do have actually a strong and growing group of science communicators and science fiction writers looking at climate futures. That maybe they're still a little untapped. I'm not sure if their work is something that we can incorporate in our work. Yeah. But there's a group. Incidentally, there are also a group of architecture people who are looking at climate futures also for futures thinking in terms of architecture and infrastructure development.
Any more questions for Ms. Kato from the audience? Yes, Doctor.
I don't know kung BT contest question ba to. How do you measure impact? Do you still look at views na parang when you launch it, I guess you'd get a lot of views, pero parang pinopromote pa rin ba na after it's been shown, titingnan uli kung meron pa rin bang the interest is there, or at least, I don't know parang how do you know that you're making an impact?
Hirap naman ang tanong. Okay, so when we do these, I mentioned we look at communities of practice. So in this case, for this program, we're looking at groups of filmmakers who become advocates. That to us is already a sign of impact, especially if they continue making films and creative work that actually help communicate science and further discussions. That's one. Two, actually, I've never really liked looking at views. For the most part, depending on the platform, views just tell you someone's looked at it for X number of seconds, but you don't really know if they finished the film, they fully appreciate it, what they did with it. So, mas old school kami that we prefer to look at the impact in terms of when the films are shown to particular classes or in programs, engage the reactions from there. We've also had films that were submitted later on after the competition to international film fests and have won. Pero yun nga the state of filmmaking in the Philippines is not very ideal. So we try to continue finding ways to support young filmmakers, especially in terms of how they can make the films available. So with our current partnership with OneFlix, yes, they will be able to give us analytics like most platforms, but really what we'd like to see later on is how these films are actually used in classrooms or by civil society organizations or in other forums, more than just how many views. We do get requests also for access to the films for personal entertainment. Maybe I should get back to them if they were entertained, and that could be a measure of impact. Yes. So we do have requests, repeat requests from UP, for example, for environmental science classes. So they select which films they want to show in their class as part of a discussion point. I mentioned architecture because we've had requests from UP also and De La Salle College of St. Benilde to use the films that are more about climate futures to try and spur futures thinking among students. So we've had those. We've for creative writing classes, how do you combine science, data, and the arts? So we've had that too. But yes, it's at least it's being used in NYSI in UP. I'm very sure.
Are there any more questions po? Yes?
Over the course of the project, have you noticed any perspective shifts in terms of the climate information that they put out in these films?
That's a very interesting point. One of the challenges that we have as the project organizer is when you receive a pitch, it might be a very, very good pitch, but you don't really know if it will be a successful film. So internally, we have favorites just from the pitches, and then that changes through the duration of the production. That could be because of challenges in terms of strengthening their climate science lens, or sometimes it's a technicality in terms of production. But we have had filmmakers come back to us and tell us that they've learned more talking to the mentors. For each batch of filmmakers that we have, we do come back to them and do an FGD to try and find out how we can improve the competition, but also to try and gauge if it's being beneficial to them. So a number of them have gone on and developed also films or screenplays that are also climate or environmental related. So I think that's a good mark for them. Yeah.
Any more questions?
Just an aside, there's a film that we have which is funny. It was originally pitched as entitled Fried Chicken, and after the Climate Film Labs, they changed it to Roasted Chicken. I don't know if that's something to do with what they learned from the climate lens.
So, are there any more questions? Wala na po. Okay. Wala na. Last call. Okay. Okay. Yes. Talk ninyo.
I'm just wondering that you mentioned there are workshops for the film submissions. So I'm just wondering that after the workshop, are there storytelling flow would change depending on the outcome of the workshops? Because I noticed from all the films, it shows the conditions and the problems brought about the climate change, but perhaps are there submissions that looks into perhaps solutions for the trouble? Because right now it only shows all the problem, all the implications of climate change, but I didn't see any of them showing how we could act, people would act, how they can contribute, how they can adapt, perhaps mitigate the effects of climate change.
There are some changes to the storytelling after they go through the mentoring process. So one of them, if I recall correctly, is the second top film from last year, Ang Gadya Sang Suba from Iloilo. And what he wanted to do was to tell the story of how river monsters in Iloilo that were used to scare kids into behavior. Turns out that what's scarier are the illegal loggers in the mountains that they're hearing. So Um, as much as possible through the mentoring and the mentoring process, we try to be hands off so as not to influence or to be thought of as biased in terms of eventual judging. But we do get feedback from them that talking to their science mentors um, can result in a shift in terms of how they decide to tell a story. For some, it can be an insurmountable challenge. I mentioned there are very strong pitches that eventually you're not able to complete into very good films at the end. But we've also had relatively lukewarm pitches that become strong contenders at the end because of the science. There are some films that show adaptation and resilience, if I remember correctly, or provide some lessons in terms of what should be done moving forward. But you're right. One of the things that we have noticed so far is even with climate future films that we receive, most of them still tend to be dystopian. Okay? I don't know if that is something that we can solely address through the climate film labs, but that is something that also tells us that there needs to be more stories of resilience, even outside of mga kwento ng klima. We know that not just the youth, people are anxious about climate change, and they want to do something, but they don't quite know how. And I think that's that gap. So for us, for mga kwento ng klima, the focus really is not in terms of telling people what to do. It's more of trying to raise awareness and localizing and making the stories personal so that it's not some vague imagery of polar bears and ice caps. It's something close to you. The bridging of what is your local reality and what is climate impact in your community and what you can do about it, I think right now, as far as our programs go, is being addressed by Klima Alam and some of our learning sessions that we do with the schools.
Yes, ma'am.
Mga 3 pitches siguro expect ko next year.
Natanong po ni Father kanina yung reading, pero parang naisip na po ba or na-pitch na po ba sa inyo kung theater production po yung parang gagawin gagawin po competition or kahit siguro meron po kayong ipa-partner na theater org or ano na pwedeng gumawa ng ganun po. Tapos yun po yung ear road show. Kasi meron pong beauty sa short films, pero iba din po yung ganda na nabibigay ng mga like full-length na theater production. So, meron po ba kayong parang plan pag ganun po?
We've had requests to give inputs to plays that are based on climate change. We've not really been actively part in the production of such plays. I know that UP held 2 or 3 plays earlier this year that has something to do with climate change. Not sure if it's something that we're prepared to do at this time. As I mentioned, there's less than 15 of us in the center. And part of the beauty of working with films is it's something that does not require a lot of logistics from our end. And the trying to extend its reach is so much more convenient than perhaps like packing an entire production crew with props and everything else for a play. But you have the Ateneo community to test it out if you want to try and explore it.
Hi, Miss Kato. I'm just curious because it's really been a challenge for
for example, for us, to communicate science outside, as I've mentioned earlier in our chat. I'm curious if does OML have any trainings or workshop aside from the workshop for the filmmakers? Do you have any lecture or trainings for science communicators?
None at the moment, but that's actually, I mentioned working with media and communicators. That's an approach we are considering, but we haven't done that yet. But I would have to say that we're also learning as much as you are. And what has been helpful to us is really our interactions with students, teachers, what we call non-technical actors. When you work in the climate change space, although I'm not a climate scientist, what's basic to you is actually not basic anymore to someone outside of that space. So we always have to try and recalibrate where we start off. And yes, sometimes that means having to not talk about the hard science yet. Just trying to get into that entry point of having them understand why this is important and that there's something that they can do.
Thank you po. Any more questions? Wala na. Okay po. Thank you to everyone who shared such engaging questions. So, to express our gratitude to our speaker, may we call on Father Jet and Dr. Faye Cruz to present the certificate token of appreciation to Ms. Cato Sarmiento. Certificate of appreciation. This is presented to Ms. Catherine May Sarmiento for her insightful and invaluable contribution as resource speaker at the Manila Observatory 160th Anniversary Lecture Series entitled Ambag, Agham sa Banig, Conversations on Science, Service, and Society, given this 23rd day of May 2005 at the Manila Observatory at Ateneo de Manila University Campus, Loyola Heights, Quezon City. Signed, Executive Director, Father Jet Villarin. Let's give a round of applause to Ms. Cato Sarmiento. To end today's program, to end today's program, may we call on our Executive Director, Father Jose Ramon Villarin, to say some few words.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Kato. I mean, really, we've come a long way. Naalala ko pa nung, kailan ba yun? Early 2000, dun sa JESCOM. Buhay pa ba yun? We tried this film on meron kaming, may green screen eh. Tapos may nakadahon na, may kinakausap akong dahon. So, ang hirap pala na, just to imagine na yung dahon sumasagot sa'yo. Tapos, di ba? Gumawa na ba kayo ng ganoon? Ng mga films? Anyway, and that's why while you were presenting, you know, I really felt happy. I felt happy kasi I think that's one of our strong suits eh. We Filipinos, we are a creative people. Last week I was listening to our Ateneo Chamber singers before going to Europe. Sabi ko, God, this is world class. We really have talent eh, as a people. On film, I sort of felt sad kasi, di ba, tuwing Metro Film Festival, sabi ko, ano, shake, rattle, and roll na naman itong makikita natin. And I longed to see the films of Lino Broca and Peque Galiaga and all these guys who were giants back in the 70s. We were making very good films, world class. Tapos biglang, ano nangyari? No? And then I see this, hindi nandun pa rin, hindi nawala yung talent. And so it's really something very consoling for me to see that this is happening. And there are young people who are taking on this challenge. To Nino's question, yun rin ang aking tanong na madaling magpakita ng dystopia na masisira ang mundo. Pero yun na nga yun ang maalala natin kasi, takot, di ba? O kaya kapre, pero sana meron bang Darna? Ano tayo maliligtas, di ba? And meron naman meron. Halimbawa, naalala ko nung nasa Mindanao ako, may kwento sila pero hindi nila ginawang sine, pero kwento lang. Father, alam nyo, dun sa isang komunidad ng mga mangingisda, pinutol nila yung mangrove. Yung mangrove kasi, yung kahoy nun, masarap. I mean, pag ginamit mo siya pang gatong, ewan ko bakit. Pero pag yung mangrove na kahoy ay gawin mong pang barbecue, masarap. So after a while, nawala yung mangrove. At nawala din yung isda. Diba? Siyempre. Does not take a scientist, a rocket scientist, to put the connection, diba? So what did they do? They replanted. Of course, hindi ganun kadali, diba? Pero nagtanim ulit sila ng mangrove. At siyempre, naghanap rin sila ng substitute doon sa kahoy na panggatong. And the fish came back. Di ba? So, pwede rin yun. O yung river monster. Wala dito si Bern, ano? Wala. Si Bern kasi short story writer, writer yan . And there's a genre for parang fantasy, yung mga ganyan, yung mga monster, when you look at a river monster, or when you know that it is really the planting of trees that will change things, then you look for some story, di ba? Kasi that's a solution . Pero kasi lagi natin naman alam na magtanim ka. Pero yun nga yung connection. And I think there are creative ways to do this. So we thank you, Kato, for this. I think you prodded us, you provoked us. Science is also a story to tell it. It's a language. And I hope it's not easy. It's really not easy to empathize, to enter into another person's view and try to just assume that that person understands us. But we meet ordinary people. Hindi naman tayo Superman, Superwoman. Naalala ko lang kasi noon nung kausap ko yung aking barbero 20 years ago, no more, 25 years ago. Siya pa rin ang barbero ko ngayon. Isipin mo. Sabi ko, Ermi, alam mo, nasa ako climate change. Ano siya Jehovah siya . So, yun ba yung Oo nga alam nyo, kasi yung butas, yung ozone hole na yan ang talaga. Siyempre, grabe, ang alam niya sa global warming ay ozone hole. Iba naman yun Di ba? Pero doon sabi ko, nako, hindi tayo nakakatulay. And palagay ko, kailangan yung hamon, the challenge to all of us really is to learn the language, not just of science, of course, and we are all human beings, but to learn the language that is powerful. Even our Lord Jesus used parables. No? These are analogs. These are metaphors. Because he had to explain something like kingdom of God. That is so theoretical. Kingdom of God, ano yan? Tulad lang yan ng binhi. Yung maliit na binhi ba? Buto? Seed? no, na tinatanim. Yung mga ganun na mga larawan. At dahil doon, naiintindihan natin. So, thank you again. Thank you very much, Kato, for being here with us and for this presentation. Pwede magamit kasi nagtuturo ako eh. Pwede ko bang gamitin itong mga, ang tawag na, shorts? Shorts, no? Parang TikTok ba yan? Iba pa ba yun? Ano yung reels? Iba pa yun? Iba rin yun? Okay. Anyway, so, kung meron na akong, kasi ako, usually nga, graph lang, tsaka numero. Wala naman nakakaintindi ng graph, tsaka numero eh. Pero ito, agad-agad eh. So, muli, bigyan natin ng masigagong palakpak yan. At, kakain na tayo? Meron ba tayong merienda? Meron ba? Yung isda, nandun ba yun? Nakuha ba natin?
Please have some refreshments first before we head out. Again, this is Erica, your host for this afternoon. We hope you were inspired by today's lecture, and we look forward to seeing you again in the upcoming Ambag sessions and other future events. Thank you and have a restful weekend. Magandang hapon po.